What's going on YouTube? Computer Guy Chris here with another video on beginner's Python. Python is an extremely powerful programming language that can be used from everything from web development to data science and much, much more. But before getting to that, you have to master the basics. In the last video, we talked about for loops, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the while loop. The while loop is similar to the for loop, except that the while loop repeats a process over and over until a breaking or ending requirement is met. Over here on the desktop, I've got a couple of different examples of while loops, so let's take a look at those. The first example is just the standard while loop. So what we have here is we have a function called while loop, and we have I equals 0. So we're starting by setting a constant I equal to 0. And then we have while I is less than 5, print I, and then we're iterating I 1, 2, 3 after each process. And what this is going to do is it's going to start here at the beginning. It's going to print what I is because at the first I is equal to 0. 0 is less than 5. So while I is less than 5, it's going to print I. So it's going to print 0. Then it's going to add 1 to I. So now I has become 1. Then it's going to say, okay, 1 is still less than 5, so it's going to print 1. I is going to become 2. Then it's going to say 2 is still less than 5, and so on, until I becomes 5, and then 5 is no longer less than 5. So what it's going to print out for us is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's just have that run so we can take a look at that. So while pi. And there we go. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, why isn't 5 up there? Why doesn't it say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The reason is because the requirement we have, the breaking requirement or ending requirement we have, is when I is no longer less than 5. And since 5 is not less than 5, it's equal to 5, it breaks the loop. And so what this process does, what the while loop process does, is it just iterates through everything in that while loop over and over until the breaking or ending requirement is met. So this is kind of the most basic form of the while loop. Now let's take a look at something similar, but a little bit more. So this one we have, it's called while loop true. It starts off just the same, I is equal to 0, and now we have while true. So what that means is while true, since we don't have any breaking requirement, it's just going to run forever, right? Our program is just going to run over and over and over and over and over. And actually, while you're writing your program with a while loop, you have to make sure you don't add something like this in where the requirement won't be met. Typically, people will do it. They'll do something like this. They'll say while I is less than 5, and then they'll forget to iterate through I. They'll forget to increase I. But here we have an example where we just have while true. So if it's always true, it's just always going to keep running through this while loop, right? Except that we have print I just as before, and now we have if I is equal to 7, break. Now what that is going to do is that's going to be just like before, just like our I is less than 5, this is going to be our ending requirement or breaking requirement that's going to push us out of the while loop. So let's take a look at that. What it's going to print out is it's just going to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's going to print 7 because our breaking requirement is 7, but it's after the print statement. So let's just take a look at that. And there we go, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is just another way that the while loop can be used. I've used it in some other programs. For example, if you've watched my series on how to build a Robinhood auto stock trader or trading bot, I use this while function, the while loop, to iterate through our trading sequence as long as the market's open. So I say, while market is open, do this trading sequence. And it works the same as this. And then it breaks out of that sequence when the market is no longer open. And lastly, the last form of the while loop I just want to show you guys is this one, and it's called the while else loop. And so here what we have is we start off the same, I is equal to 0, and then we have while I is less than 4, print I, and iterate through I, right? So just as we had before in this first one, except now we're saying when I is equal to 4 instead of I is equal to 5. Except that we have this added else statement. So else is typically used with if statements, which we'll do in another video. We'll go through if, else, and elif statements. But here we have a while else statement. And what this is going to do is it's going to go through the while statement. It's going to keep going through. And when it breaks out of the while statements, it's going to move over to the else statement. So it's sort of like an if statement, except the while statement will just keep going through over and over until the requirement is no longer met, and then it'll move over to the else statement. So what this is going to do is it's going to print out 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to stop at 4 because 4 is not less than 4. 4 is equal to 4. And it's going to move over to the else statement. So let's take a look at that. And there we go. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we are in the else statement, which is the printout we have right here. So again, the while loop is similar to the for loop, except it will just continuously run through its iterations until the breaking or ending requirement is met. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you're just starting to learn Python, I hope these videos are helping you get a grasp on some of the different things that Python has to offer. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. If you like this video, please smash that like button. It's really helpful for the video and for the channel. And as always, thanks and subscribe.